Alright, quick update on Kadena. So that next leg to the downside that we've been talking about for ages now is finally starting to come into fruition. If you are a seasoned veteran of my channel, you'll know how long I've been talking about the price ranges between $1 and 80 cents. They seem kind of far-fetched when we were talking about these bearish breakdowns up here at 650, but we're literally getting very, very close. The last update we made for this, we were talking about a 55% breakdown in play for Kadena. At this moment in time, we're about 17.6% of that way down, and yes, I still do think we're going to continue with this move. I do not think $1 is the bottom. I actually think we're going to come down to 80 cents, and you know, once again, this is going to be about a 45% drop to the downside from where we are at this moment in time. Now, right off the back, before we do talk about the technicals, I do also want to see where we are in terms of the EMA ribbons. I want to draw an interesting fractal that I did notice. So first of all, let me remove the drawings, flatten the squeeze bomb, put this on a logarithmic growth curve scale so it puts more weight into the distribution over here than it does with this massive run up. And let's talk about this interesting fractal that I see playing out right now. So what you have over here is a very ugly triangle, asymmetrical triangle type breakdown. Now, if I mark these as white, I'm sure they'll be a lot more visible to the people who are watching, especially on mobile. And then let me draw this. So this is the basic fractal that we've got. And what's very interesting about this is you can actually draw the triangle pattern like this, and you can draw the triangle pattern like this. And with both of them, you can extrapolate the trend line back further. And even with this one, you can extrapolate it further. With this one, you can extrapolate it further. But let's just draw it from here. So this is the basic structure of the fractal. You have two asymmetrical triangles. Once again, this one might be slightly debatable if it's an asymmetrical triangle. Just call it an ugly triangle if you don't want to consider that. We pumped up to the top of the asymmetrical triangle, pumped up to the top of the asymmetrical triangle. We subsequently broke down, found the floor of the triangle, broke down, found the floor of the triangle. We broke all the way to the upside, lollygagged at the top of the asymmetrical triangle. And then what do? We came back down to the bottom, and with this pump, I need to draw it more accurately. With this pump here, we created an M pattern breakdown completely through the floorboards of this. Now, over on here as well, you can see from the low, we pumped up to the top, broke back down to the downside, and created an M pattern breakdown. And on both of these, you kind of pumped up, you know, to the apex of the triangle before bleeding outside of it. Here, pump up to the apex, bleed out of the side of it. And what's interesting with both of these, because you know, bear in mind, I am a crypto YouTuber, so I get tons of questions all the time about KDA. A lot of people have been getting out of bed for every single one of these bounces. So for example, at $4.33, a lot of people asked me when we moved up to 347, is that the bottom? And some people were like, okay, it doesn't look like Kadena is going to $1 anymore. And it was the same where we had this M pattern, and we actually pumped very, very momentarily to 185. And quite recently, even in the past week, people said when we were at, you know, 167, they were like, you know, what's happening? Are we breaking bullish? But, you know, once again, when you do look at these, they're just a series of lower highs. Now, what is also interesting about this, if we switch over to the Heiken Ashi candles, you can see we had one massive run to the upside. As you started to turn green, you can tell this is the first part of a massive M pattern breakdown. Now, you subsequently rolled back down to the downside and had a very, very weak right side of this M pattern, and as you can see, we had a massive M pattern breakdown. I still definitely think something like this is in play, although I can imagine the price target of this breakdown. I'm just going to take a rough breakdown target. Yeah, I don't necessarily think this is going to be in play, but nonetheless, let's just continue with the fractal. So you've got an M pattern, massive M pattern out of the side of this, and then what you will notice over here is you run up. As you start turning light green, this is where you have a rounding top, and you once again solidified another very weak M pattern. Well, it's a very strong M pattern, but the right side of it is where you just completely lacked momentum. On both of these, the squeeze bomb was completely flat, the volume was completely flat, there was nothing backing up this uptrend. And this is where I've been saying on my channel since $6.50, look at the EMA ribbons. Every time you come into the EMA ribbons, if you do not have a strong move above them, you are getting ready for that next leg back to the downside. We've been calling on KDA bull trap after bull trap after bull trap, and every single time, you know, it takes a couple of days for them to play out, but we once again massively head to the downside. Apologies for all the clicking. I need to get back to my original chart once again. I don't think we need to overcomplicate things with the EMA ribbons. I really think it's as simple as you come into the EMA ribbons, you don't have a strong impulse, you don't have volume confirming it, you break down, and we saw the exact same thing here. I mean, can you even see this volume that is coming in? Probably not. The market is absolutely weak right now. Daily squeeze momentum indicator is massively capitulating to the downside. At least it's capitulating to the downside in terms of since we had this crab market stagnation phase since the 12th of May. So we're heading right back down to this next low. And also, like I said, we have a massive M pattern breakdown. Now, do we have another M pattern over here? I thought I might have just saw something, but maybe not. It looks like, yeah, we do have another M pattern. Now, once again, this is going to yield the same price target as we talked about before, but you've got a run to the upside, you've topped, you've come down, you've bounced from the floor, you've rolled over, and with every week you've made a lower high. And this looks really, really ugly, because on the weekly time frame it's kind of hard to draw accurately because it skews it so much. But as you can see, we've got M patterns on the weekly time frame. When we come over to the daily, we talked about these fractals that were also playing out. You know, within the fractal, we were talking about M pattern breakdowns into, you know, higher M pattern breakdowns from here to here, and then you form a smaller version of the previous fractal where you have another M pattern breakdown. And then when you do switch things over to the Heikonashis, you can see with both of these you have separate M pattern breakdowns from these rounding tops, from the lack of momentum coming into the market structure. So, you know, I say this every video, I am a fan of KDA. I've read the white paper. I do like the green consensus, the green network consensus mechanism, but the bottom's not in. I've been saying that for ages. We're going to get absolutely slaughtered. And, you know, if you have been DCAing all the way down, I have been telling people, do not DCA altcoins in a bear market. It is not a good idea. The only people telling you to DCA in a bear market are retail traders or idiots. I was back in this market in 2018. I listened to retail traders. I DCA'd all the way down in 2018, and it took like a year or two to even break even from DCAing from the start of the bear market. Like, it does not make sense to DCA in a bear market. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I know there has been a bunch of people who have joined my channel who previously looked at other KDA YouTubers, won't say no names, but people that have been, you know, shilling this, telling you to sell all their Bitcoin since $20, that only focus on KDA, etc., etc. Tons of, you know, scumbags that just do not look at the market structure, and I'm pretty sure most of them are just using you for exit liquidity. I genuinely care about how all of you perform in this market, which is why I'd rather be brutally honest than come on here and say, you know, KDA is a great price right now, perfect place to DCA, moon is coming in the next couple of months. This is not what my channel's about. I'm going to tell you how it is, even if it's not what you want to hear. I've been telling you this for months now. The bottom is not in. The trend is your friend until the end. Do not DCA until the Fed pivots, until they stop raising the interest rates. The bottom is absolutely not in. Once again, don't know how many times I have to say this, but I guess I have to hammer it in. The next level to the downside will be the most recent low, and you know, I could draw some fibs. I could draw some fibs from the low to the highs. Actually, quite conveniently, down here at $1, there is a 1.618 Fibonacci. Do I think that just because there's a high level of confluence down at the $1 is going to hold? Absolutely not. I think we're coming all the way down to 80 cent. And once again, this might not be the bottom for KDA. We need to keep our eyes on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's going to bottom around about that 14,000 range. So subsequently, if KDA comes down to, you know, 80 cent and Bitcoin's only just come down to 18K, I'm going to be calling for lower price targets. So at some point in time, I am going to flip very, very bullish for KDA. I do think it's going to perform well in the next market cycle. Do I think it's going to perform well in the next couple of months? Absolutely not. I will not be bullish on any cryptos until the Fed pivots. Looking at the lower time frames, momentum is absolutely stepping in over on the 4-hourly time frame. It looks like there's a decent amount of volume coming in. I'm looking at this over on Bittrex, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of KDA traded over here. But if we head over to Binance, looking at Tether and the BUSD pair, we're done with this chart now, so you know where I'm where I think we're heading to in the macro term. How far are we down from this prediction? Because we were calling for a 50% drop over here. We're down about 25% from here, which is very nice. Let's look at what the volume is coming in over on the exchanges that have more volume coming in. So over on Binance, on the USDT pair, we've got almost 1 million sold today. Heading over to Binance on the BUSD, it looks like 500,000 has been sold. So, you know, there's over 1.5 million sold just over on Binance. So that should definitely tell you something. Volume is still relatively flat, but a lot more momentum can come in. And, you know, once again, when we do look at the daily time frame, it definitely does seem like the squeeze bomb is miles away from bottoming. The MACD has not even crossed bearish yet. So if you're looking at this and thinking, you know, now might be a great time to DCA, I would heavily disagree with you. I really think this downtrend has only just started. 4-hourly time frame, MACD is heading down, light red volume is coming in over on the histogram. The money flow indicator came up to the heart line, and I imagine this is where it's going to get rejected. We've got a lot of room to move to the downside before we even reach the oversold level. And the squeeze bomb has been unchanged. This is why I've been saying in my past couple of videos for the past couple of days, momentum was subsiding. We talked about this in the last video. We talked about the bearish divergence as well. I forgot about this. There was super bearish divergence playing out over on Kadena. We talked about this 2 days ago. If you want to go check this out, be sure to. But everything we've been talking about is playing out to the teeth. And once again, my friends, I hate to say it, I wish I could come on these videos and say everything's going to the moon. I'd have a lot more fun recording videos in a bull market, but I refuse to sacrifice my integrity and just BS clickbait all of you, because the bottom is not in. I'm sure people who've been watching for a prolonged period of time now have started to realize this, but as you can see, everything's heading down. 4-hourly time frame over on Bitcoin. We'll wrap up on Bitcoin just to show you why KDA is breaking down so hard. But the 4-hour for Bitcoin, we've literally just had a massive M pattern. We're coming down to this uptrending level of support from this bear flag. We've come up and retested it, and we're currently deciding, you know, are we going to hold this? We probably won't find out for the next 4, 8, 12 hours or so, unless by the time you're watching this, Bitcoin just capitulates down to like 19,000, then it might just take a while. So give it some time. We've also got the CPI report coming in tomorrow. I will be updating probably KDA, Bitcoin, all of the alts tomorrow extensively now this breakdown has happened. Over on the MACD on the 4-hourly time frame as well, we've only just crossed below the heart line. We've got a lot more room to head to the downside. MFI very weak on the 4-hourly time frame for Bitcoin, but nonetheless higher time frames, you are completely overbought. So as you can imagine, Bitcoin's money flow indicator is up here at 60. If you witness like another move back down to, you know, 5 or 6 like we previously did, that's going to be a huge drop in momentum for Bitcoin, or not a drop in momentum, a drop in price, and a huge upswing in momentum. Bitcoin could get absolutely slaughtered this week, and if that happens, once again, it's going to seem more and more likely like $1.80 are probably not going to be the bottom, and we could go lower. So at this moment in time, I do not have any price targets for you on KDA below below 80 cent rather. But I will keep you updated on that as we do head down. As we approach $1, I will be reevaluating the market structure, and because obviously I do think KDA is going down to 80 cent. I just can't tell you what the price of Bitcoin is going to be when KDA is down 80 cent. And what I will tell you is if KDA is at 80 cent and Bitcoin's at 14,000, I'll be very bullish, or I'll be more bullish. I'll be more inclined to DCA. But if KDA just goes straight down to $1, or it goes down to 80 cent and Bitcoin is hovering around about 18K, 17K, I'm going to be calling for another leg to the downside. So right off the back, just to humor you, 2.618 is actually down here at 49 cent. Can we find a price target before then? I don't think we're going to find it from this fib. This fib's probably going to be at 0. Yeah, it's at 2 cents. So, you know, once again, I'm not calling for these price targets. You've got previous support down here at 32, so I find that very likely. 32, and also, once again, we mark this green. The next fib would be at 49 cent. So we'll do more extensive analysis on this. Before, I don't just want to draw a couple of fibs and look at previous support. I want to actually build out like a proper formulated plan if we do break below these levels. You've got a double fib at 3.6. Oh, this is above 80. You've got another fib down here at 75. So it's very likely, you know, once again, this range between 80 cent and 75 cent is in play. So this is what I think is going to be playing out. Once again, slightly lower price target than I mentioned before, but I do see this heading down to 75 cent. Let's just keep it how it is first. I don't want to draw too many predictions when I've still got this prediction from like 1.95 saying we're going to come down to $1. After we break $1, I will be reevaluating the market structure and letting you know what I think is next. But at least in the short term, my friends, $1.80, it is absolutely in play. That's all I've got for you today. The trend is your friend until the end. Do not go crazy bullish until the Fed pivots. Do not go crazy bullish until Bitcoin is bottomed. And also, just look at the EMA ribbons. Until we flip them, the bottom's probably not in. So that's all I've got for you today, my friends. And as always, cowboy out. Peace.